Greetings and welcome to another edition of Understanding the Symbols of Hieronymus Bosch. And Hieronymus Bosch did not paint this. This is a drollery. A drollery is a little drawing in the margins of illuminated manuscripts. And sometimes the drawings are explained in the text, but other times they are not. And they are meant to be little puzzles that you figure out. And to my knowledge, no one has ever figured this one out other than me, and I am going to tell you. This is what I call a heretical door. So we're going to open the door by reading all the elements in the symbol. The main theme would seem to be mockery. He is wearing a toga. It is blue and white. He has a dark curly beard. He has a sharp tongue. He is balanced on a vine. He's wearing sensible shoes. And most importantly, he is standing on one foot. Now let's give those symbols some general definitions. The toga identifies him as being someone from the time of the Romans. He's wearing blue and white, which are the traditional colors of the Jews. He has a curly beard, which would also identify him as a Jew. He has a sharp tongue. That means he is very intelligent and known for his wit. He is balanced on a vine. Well, Jesus is the true vine, so he is balanced or has a good understanding. We could say he's in good stead with Jesus. And so this is a holy man who is balanced, who is known for his wit and brain, and who was Jewish in the time of the Romans. And that fits only one person who ever stood on one foot, and that would be Hillel the Elder. And the story of Hillel the Elder standing on one foot opens a great big door into a heretic discussion. What you need to know about the story of Hillel is during his lifetime, which was like 50 years before the birth of Jesus, there was a big push among the Jews to do proselytizing. They'd gone overseas, living in different parts of the empire, but they were busy proselytizing at that time. They gave it up after the fall of Jerusalem and the end of that terrible revolt. But before that time, during the time of Jesus and long before, they were famous for going out and aggressively looking for converts. And that's what the story of Hillel the Elder is all about. At that time, there were two schools of Jewish thought, the school of Shammai and the school of Hillel. The story goes as follows. A Gentile stated he would convert to Judaism if only a rabbi would teach him the entire Torah while standing on one foot. This was a veiled insult, meaning that the Jews were so desperate for new converts that they would be willing to stand on one foot for hours like fools in their desperation. So first the prankster went to Shammai, the conservative rabbi, who was not amused and famously threw his ruler at the man. Next, the prankster, no doubt pleased with himself for proving that rabbis have no self-control and therefore their religion has no value, then went on to test Hillel. The gentle sage, however, accepted the challenge and stood on one foot and said, "What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. That is the whole Torah. The rest is just explanation. Now go and study." And so he summed up the law and made a fool of the man at the same time while standing on one foot. There are several lessons a heretic could teach from this story. To begin with, the ideas of Jesus were not necessarily original, although he did advance the ideas, but he was building on or in harmony with the earlier teachings, the teachings of Hillel, for instance. Shammai and Hillel both had jobs, just as Jesus was a carpenter and his disciples, when things got slow, went back to fishing. They all had jobs. And this is in contrast to the Christian clergy who do not have jobs. And a case can be made that Jesus and his disciples resembled those ancient Jews far more than they resembled the modern Christian. And all a heretic wants to do at the beginning is to introduce doubt. And so that's what this little cartoon was meant to do at the side of the page. But someone had to know the story behind it. And the chances are a non-Jew in England in the Middle Ages being able to recognize this thing are like absolutely nil. Someone has to let you in on the story. And so in that way, this becomes like a secret handshake or something. Only a heretic would trust the story to someone else that they thought was a good candidate to become a heretic. So that's why this picture is sort of a heretical door. This is a heretical symbol. And all the heretic needs is he doesn't have to stick one of these secret symbols on every page of the book. You only need one or two in every book to start off a Bible study. An anti-Bible study is what you'd be starting with someone. Because the whole idea is to shake their faith in the church. And remember, at this time, the church is burning witches, it's burning homosexuals, it's burning the occasional Jew, and it's definitely burning heretics by the thousands in the public squares. And so the heretics went underground, and they're doing their best to mock the church. I wouldn't be worthy of the name heretic if I didn't explain the theology to you. So here goes. Jesus said, "In everything then, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the essence of the law and the prophets." Hillel said, "What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor." That is the whole Torah. The rest is just explanation. Go and study it. So if we break these two statements down to their elements, they read as follows. Do to others as you would have them do to you. What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. So the first statement is by Jesus, and it requires positive action. Hillel's version simply requires that you don't do anything hateful. You don't hurt your neighbor in any way. But Jesus is saying that's not enough. He wants you to assert yourself. If your neighbor needs help, you need to help them because you yourself would want help in their position. And so Jesus is sort of giving you your moral obligation, and Hillel is sort of establishing like the very minimum. So one is the minimum, one is the maximum. But they're both moral statements based on your personal empathy and your personal reason, and making it your responsibility. Another heretic lesson that can be pointed out is that both Hillel and Jesus were trying to work their way around the law and the prophets because they were barbaric and unworkable. That's why they broke them down to their essence. And also, this is why they were beloved by the populace. Also notice for the rest of your life that do to others as you would have them do to you is something the church tells children. It's not something the church itself has ever lived by. the church used to officially burn people to death. I'm just going to read this next bit. The story of Hillel also illustrates the idea that the teachings of the rabbis, like Hillel and Jesus, were part of the oral tradition that did not end until after the destruction of the temple in 70 CE. At that time, so many Jews were slaughtered by the Romans that it was decided everything must finally be written down before all Jewish culture was lost. The Jews avoided writing anything down out of an abundance of fear that it would be mistaken as sacred wisdom rather than simply being the best interpretation of the law at the time. By not writing opinions down, those opinions could not be confused with the law, which was unchangeable, written in stone. They meant to give the future generations the flexibility of thought so as to better meet the needs of the future generations as different problems came up. This explains one reason why Jesus never wrote anything down, to avoid being confused with the law. Jesus was working in the tradition of Hillel. And this, of course, is in contrast to the Christians who insisted on writing everything down and forming it into a Bible and then using the Bible as a justification for killing people. This also implies that all Greek and Latin language scriptures are, at best, translations from the original Aramaic accounts of sayings of the life of Jesus. They are, at worst, based on what could be remembered or misremembered as words that were originally spoken in Aramaic or Hebrew. That indicates that all accounts of the life of Jesus are 2 or 3 times removed from any truly reliable witness. Thus, the story of Hillel on one foot can be used to cast doubt on all 4 Gospels. My version of the story of Hillel and Shammai is at somewhat odds with the way it's told by most rabbis, but it is in harmony with the symbol pictured. Anyway, that's why I say this is a heretic door. You would never understand all the implications of it without someone like me to guide you. A lot of Bosch works the same way. It's a series of heretic doors. You simply need a little guidance to get through them. This is a door, and this is a door, and this is adorable. So remember, the truth will set you free once you start studying 14th century manuscripts and understanding the symbols of Hieronymus Bosch. Don't just stare at me like I have blueberry on my face. Leave a comment.